Hello, hello, Heather Jean here. I'm so excited for you to join me in looking at this week's podcast episode with the wonderful Sylvie Dow, who is a cyclist, a podcaster, a mom. And we cover such a range of topics from self care through to, sorry about that, small choking fit. Uh, we cover talking about following our passion, turning it into a business or a theme or a subject of our business. We talked about cabaret. We talked about all kinds of different things. So first things first, Confidence Through Cabaret, the podcast, is all things informing confidence. We have a wide range of guests who join us, and it's available every Wednesday. Either you can search Confidence Through Cabaret wherever you get your podcasts and you'll be able to find it there, or right here on the Confidence Through Cabaret YouTube channel under the vodcast playlist if you prefer your vodcasts, in other words, videos of myself and my guest talking. So however you prefer it. But in this segment is Confidence with Coffee. And that's where my choking was coming from, was the coffee went down a little bit the wrong way just as I was starting. So, we're perfectly imperfect and we show up and we do our best. I wanted to share in this segment a little bit about my kind of takeaways. First of all, when we started Confidence Through Cabaret, it was really using cabaret, which is a passion and a purpose, to share the skills and the techniques that are available to everyone in building confidence. So we talk in Confidence Through Cabaret about personal life, work life, and stage life as kind of not separate parts, because they're very much integrated parts of ourselves, but very much about, kind of, where do you have confidence? Maybe it's in your work life. You're very confident in what you do, and you've been doing it for a long time, and you're knowledgeable, and you have all kinds of skills in it, and so on. But not so much maybe in your personal life, or maybe you have a side hustle or a new business or a desire, a podcast, which we call stage life. So whatever your stage is, wherever you show up, and that could even be presentations at work for that matter. And so what we look at is, where do you have your most confidence? And then where do you desire to grow more confidence? And that's why we distinguish the lifelines. So wherever I have confidence, then I have tools that I can transfer to other areas of my life. And we always say, start from where you're strong, start from what you already have or what you already know. And I help women to unapologetically build unshakable confidence that allows us to be powerful and to own space and to raise our voice and to share our message without apology, perfectly imperfect. That is counter to what a lot of us experienced, including myself, as programming as we were growing up. And I'm going to come on to this week's podcast episode, but there's a lot of parallel, where Sylvie talks about cycling and talks about having started groups for women at various levels of cycling ability and fitness, to being able to go as far as they want in the sport, and has all kinds of connections, and then has turned that into a fitness platform, a membership group where they exercise even live together, has turned it into a podcast using all of the resources of the cycling world, of people who own shops and people who cycle. If you have a bike, then you could be part of the podcast, kind of thing. And so kind of using that passion, start from where you're strong, and then exploring that in some sort of form of spending more than half of your waking hours, in other words, in work. So I always say, you can have a good time or you can do hard time. And if you have something that you're passionate about, then it is ever more easy to build a business around it, or to be able to turn a hobby into something even greater. Now, I'm always a little bit annoyed when people talk about, oh, if you're not making money, then you've got a hobby, not a business. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I've had my own business for 26 years as a training consultant and as a coach to corporations, major branded corporations. So I can tell you now that none of those talk about that's a hobby. They always talk about, well, maybe that's a charity at this point. In other words, you're giving of your time, you're giving of your expertise, but that's not the same thing as a hobby. And it's almost demeaning, most especially we have a tough time as women, but not only women, but especially women. We have a tough time, kind of having our place where we own our space. And I'm not apologetic for saying this. When another woman, and it's usually women, I don't know if it's usually women that say it, but certainly because in the circle with Confidence Through Cabaret, I'm mainly dealing with women and femme identifying. I've heard many women say, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And that is undermining and belittling. If you are not making money in your business right now, you are donating your time, you are donating your expertise, and you are building your skills. And I can tell you now, some of the highest earners in the business world are working for charities, because charities don't work for, the employees don't work for nothing. The chief executives are up there with very high earning CEOs. So and they need to be able to attract the expertise and the strategies. So there is nothing wrong with charities either. However, if you wanted to turn it into a business, what Sylvie and I are talking about in this podcast episode this week is very much about finding our passion and then turning that into where we spend time and where we grow a business. So we covered all kinds of things. Oh my goodness, I've got this huge page of notes here. We talked a lot about balance as moms. We talked a lot about podcasting. If you want some ideas for growing your podcast download audience, then definitely check that out. It's about the 33-minute mark. You'll find some very interesting tips there that Sylvie shares. We talked about being a goal crusher. We talked about Sylvie's products of, online world membership and so on. And we also talked about committing to yourself. But one of the themes that came back a few times was around about self-care. Let's have a listen to that clip.
When you're an entrepreneur, things still have to happen. Things have to, like you have people who are relying on you, not just your children, but and also the whole health aspect. Right. And that's where everybody, puts that like so far down on the end of the list that it really comes and bites you in the butt later on. It doesn't take very long to become unhealthy, tired, miserable, moody, and then you're just like a witch to everybody. I have to say it like that, but you know what I mean? Like just nasty. Yeah. And us moms, you know how that feels when you're just not balanced, like you're not eating well, you're not eating well, and you just get tired and overworked and it never ends well.
I love that. How if you don't make time for yourself, especially as an entrepreneur, if you're not making that time for yourself, then it comes out somewhere. It comes out in your temperament, it comes out in your ability or inability to sleep, it comes out in you sacrificing your health or following your own passions, or even in my case, knowing my own voice, right? So I shared the difference between Sylvie and I in terms of self-care when raising children. My passion was being with my children. I didn't want to sacrifice one moment. I wanted to be at every birthday party, concert, sporting event, you name it, I was there. And I shared in so much of their life. And I wouldn't trade that again at all. I think what I would have done was practice a little bit more around the self-care in terms of taking 10 minutes in the morning to have some meditation or some journaling time. and I would have happily gotten up earlier for that. I think I would have followed or pursued my own kind of hobby, but I wasn't ready for it. It wasn't the right time for me. So I would say if you're there and you're really enjoying your work and your marriage or your home or your family or your community or your friends, if that's what is exciting to you, then follow it. But just make sure that you are still in touch with your own internal voice about what your passions are and what you need. And that was where I went wrong. I lost track of that voice. And I think, when we do that, that's when we start to come undone, as Sylvie's talking about there. It doesn't end well. Um, and I'll give you an example from my own life. I didn't know what I like to eat once everyone had left my family home and I was alone. I was like, I don't know, because I've been so concentrating about who's got to be where, what can be ready in time, in comparison to my workload and the children's schedules and all kinds of things going on. And I didn't actually take the time to think, what do I want? Now, part of that is because I've never been a decisive person. Even when I was younger, I would always say, well, what do you think? What are you having? What would you choose if you were me? So I've never really been that fully decisive anyway. But I think it's an important part of our growth and our understanding self and our acceptance of self. It's one thing to want to be or do something in the future. I want to be fitter. I want to be stronger. I want to be, whatever it is. I want to have more energy. It doesn't have to be a bodily thing. It could be, I want to follow my passion or find what my passion is. But you have to be able to accept yourself where you are now. And by doing that, it enables you to be able to say, okay, this is where I am now, and I truly and wholly love myself as I am, and I want these things. Then it sets a clearer path of what we need to do in order to get there, all the while practicing self love. And I think there's a difference between going through the motions of self care and actually practicing self love, which is ultimately very, very important. And the other thing we talked about in this podcast episode was the stories that we tell ourselves. You know, and I think often we don't know the intention. Again, back to that voice, we don't pay attention or don't know what the intention is behind our stories. So, for example, if I said to you, "Well, I didn't join your cycling club or I didn't go to your aerial class because I need to get stronger before I go," the whole point, if for anybody who's already been, is that's going to make you stronger or fitter, and that's what's going to enable you to get develop in that, and that's fine. But I think, a lot of the time the stories that we tell ourselves, if we go back to the what's the intention behind that, it's actually, I don't really want to exercise, or I don't really want to do that, or I don't really fully love myself, or I don't really and we have to get behind what's going on in those beliefs, and that's when we can really start to unpick some of that and even change some of that programming and some of those beliefs. If that speaks to you, I am more than happy to have a further conversation with you one-to-one. You can message me, Heather Jean, or Confidence Through Cabaret on all the socials. We are Confidence Through Cabaret everywhere. I hang out in the Facebook community, Confidence Through Cabaret, of course, all the time, all throughout every day. So you can catch me there as well, or private message me and we can set something up, and have a chat. I also run group programs. So if you want to do February is self-love, we're all about self-acceptance. We've done body confidence. We've done changing our beliefs and programming. We've done all kinds of work around the beliefs. And for February, we're starting right from the beginning, all around self-acceptance and self-love. So if that sounds like something that is for you, then you would be more than welcome to attend a free live webinar. I run them on a regular basis, at least a couple of times a month. So just drop me a DM and we can always do that. Or as I say, we can jump on a call. I help women build unshakable confidence. I help women to accept and love where they are at the moment, even in the changes that we want to make and the development and further we want to go. So Confidence Through Cabaret on all the socials except for Twitter. We are at YB YWYS. And on Clubhouse, I am at Heather YBYWYS. And those 6 little letters stand for it is your body, it is your world, and it is your stage. Take up space and own it. Thank you for being here. Check out the podcast or the vodcast. Bye for now.